Yeah, we're rolling. Okay, very good evening. Thank you for joining us. We're sorry for the delay, but our minister is very busy. With me is somebody we've all seen multiple times on television, Union Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Ma'am, thank you so much for taking our time to do this. And kudos to you for being the first Mantri to embrace digital media in the way that you have, for agreeing to do this Facebook live chat with us. We've had a phenomenal response ever since we've told people that you're going to be live with us. There's been a lot of excitement on Twitter and Facebook and everything. So, do you miss being in the TV studios?
Yes.
You do?
Most often. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm very glad to be with you all, and especially seeing you after so many years.
It's so nice, ma'am, that you agreed to do this. I'm going to take the liberty of asking the first few questions. We have a lot of questions that have come in, a lot of them specific to your ministry, a lot of them generally, and a lot of questions from a lot of young people. So there is a lot of, interest around what you do. But I'm going to start off by congratulating you firstly. You've completed 2 years in government, lots of highs, lots of lows. We're going to talk about those. I want to begin by asking you, what's the parameter for the success of Modi at 2? Is it, are you judging yourselves by what the previous government did? Have you set yourself, new parameters and new heights? How is this really working? How is it working inside the Modi government?
Well, both these measures will have to be used, because the campaign, if you remember correct, and the people's mindset at that time was to get rid of that lethargy, policy paralysis, corruption, no decisions, or everyday media being full of scandals. So you wanted a government which would really be a government which will function, which will hear people out, which will reach out to them, which will give solutions, and which will remove that blemish that India was seen as. A government which doesn't function, India is slowing down, and all that. So that angle cannot be missed out on. On the other, yes, of course the expectations are high. It was high, it is high today, it will remain high, and it is for us to constantly match up to those expectations and perform and deliver.
But the common perception is that every time, there is a critique of your government or of the policies, the general perception is, but the UPA had it worse. That's not really what we're looking to hear, from a government that's been voted in with so much confidence. I mean, you have the people's mandate, you have their hopes, you have their expectations. And obviously, because it was such a high octane campaign that your government did run, the expectations are, they're skyrocketing.
Yeah, you're right. And I fully agree. Our replies are never, our first replies are never, it was worse than, worse before. We are not leaning back on that argument. But of course, in the course of a conversation, we'll definitely refer to that, because that contrast has to be reminded.
Right.
That contrast will have to be kept in mind to say, look, from what level of morass have we come out of? What is the level of, decay that we were setting in?
Right.
And haven't we come out of that? So to that extent, to that limited extent, it is important that we refer back to that. But that's not what is our answer. Our answer is, haven't we given in the 2 years a corruption-free government? Haven't we taken major decisions which have a bearing on big and small governance issues without a malice or malicious intent playing a role in it? Haven't we turned around many of those things which appeared beyond correction? Like even today, India is energy surplus, meaning we have enough electricity to provide all states. Of course, it's up to the states depending on their conditions to take it. I mean, that is one example. Second, there are main large assets of the government which are being now opened up for use. And in that, no corruption is set in place. Transparency has prevailed. We are auctioning them through using technology, e-auctions and so on. So these are kind of features about which we are talking. All right, are these decisions being taken at some level, and the ordinary citizen has no benefit to gain from all this? Not at all. Every big scheme which is being launched, I underline, big scheme that is being launched, are keeping the common man at its core. Whether it's your Jan Dhan, whether it is your Mudra, imagine, and the insurance policies, accident cover policies, all of which are coming through keeping the ordinary citizen in mind, which could have been done in the last 60 years.
So, so 2 years into government, are you happy where you are? I mean, if you were to rate your own success rate, there are, I mean, undoubtedly there's been a lot of talk around, a lot of positive schemes that have happened, but there have also been some, terrible lows, whether those lows have been, in terms of policy in black and white, or whether they've been on the streets. So if you were to look back and, talk as a representative of the government, how much would you rate where you'd plan to be in 12 years and where you are?
No, I'll certainly rate
2
this
years,
government's hard work, this government's intention, and this government's delivery very highly. Because...
But is intention and delivery on track?
Absolutely on track.
Together?
And absolutely on track
Okay.
and together. Because if we are looking at the promises that we gave and also those issues on which short-term, medium-term and long-term outcomes are going to happen. And after all, mind you, this government has been elected for 5 years. And within 2 years, you're asking me to give a complete list of all the achievements. I want to first say, I'm reporting on this 26th, 2 years, exactly 2 years from the day this government came to place.
Right.
I'm giving you a list of my performance. These are not celebratory performance report. These are more matter of fact reporting back to my voters who have elected us with high expectation. Here we go. We tell you about the work that we've done. Assess for yourself what we've done and what we've not. And mind you, there are 3 more years for us to perform.
Okay.
We cannot cram 5 years activity in 2 years, but we are working.
So they still have 3 more years to go. For everybody who has put out a lot of critical comments, I think that's the kind of leeway that you ought to give the government. But I'm going to jump into 2 issues on which we've had a lot of reaction coming in both on Twitter and Facebook, which is Make in India and Startup India. There's been a lot of interest that's been generated around this. Are these, according to you, really your pet projects? The government is sort of hinging on these 2 schemes in a really big way to reach out, especially to young voters?
100%. Yes. Make in India and Startup India are 2 very big schemes of this government. Initiative 1, the action plan on the other. Our biggest trust is that it is through these 2 that manufacturing sector's revival is going to happen. Innovation is going to set in. Indians who have naturally been entrepreneurs, who have been feeling suffocated under the socialistic method of governance, are now getting a new leash of life, are being given facilitation, are being given all kinds of encouragement to make sure that their skills are blooming in full.
But many say that there hasn't really been the kind of translation one would have hoped to see on the ground. While the logo looks really good, and there was a lot of criticism for the fact that the Make in India logo was in fact designed by a foreign company. That was one of the biggest controversies. Even now when you Google Make in India, it's the first thing that shows up. It was one of the first stories that shows up. So, there have been those kind of very unwanted things. A lot of people coming out and criticizing your government, saying that, these are all look good, feel good things, but nothing's really happening on the ground.
No, that's not true. If Make in India as an initiative was not launched, and mind you, it was launched in September of 2014, after which 25 sectors have been opened up.
Right.
And consistent with the announcement, 25 sectors, FDI related policies have been eased out. In the sense, FDI relaxations have happened, encouraging people to come with money and technology in those sectors which were opened up, the 25 for Make in India. And as a result of which, when we give the FDI statistics, you find that from the time September when it was announced till September, even if you take just 12 months, not 16 months, if I take the 16 months, it's a different story altogether.
Right.
More than 48% increase in the quantum of FDI which is coming into this country, whilst entire world put together, minus 16% is what has been recorded.
Right.
So when the global FDI figures show a deterioration, a negative growth, here are we showing positive growth.
Since you're talking about FDI, I'm going to throw in a question that our founder at the Quint, Mr. Raghav Bail, in fact, had posted on social media. He says, why can't we simplify our FDI into 3 rates? A strategic rate of 26%, control rate of 51%, and full ownership rate of 100%. Why are there so many complicated sub-rates with, different approval methodologies? So in a certain sense, I think the perception on the ground is like, when you say that we've simplified it, but when you actually go down and read between the lines, it hasn't really been simplified to the extent that people would perhaps expect your government to have done.
But isn't that what we've achieved in the last consolidated report that we submitted, a consolidated policy statement on FDI, where we said it was up to 26 in some, 20, we've said up to 49. Then where it is possible to bring in technology, we even went to the extent of saying bring in 100 frontier in technology, we'll even clear 100%. So now the boxes are only 3.
Right.
If you were to look at the same argument which Mr. Bell is speaking about, we've also simplified them to put just 3 boxes.
Okay.
And we've most of them have been made through automatic route, which means your route is very clear, straightforward, no hassles on the way. Only in exceptional cases where there could be a security constraint, or it could be a particular sector which is very sensitive, are we going through the FIPB route.
Right.
Otherwise it's automatic. Majority of the decisions are automatic.
Okay.
So we have simplified FDI related.
And we had another allied question on Make in India, since we're talking about these 2 subjects, is that, until and unless you actually go down and revamp land reform policy in the country, Make in India is again something which is, it looks very good and it all sounds very good, but it doesn't translate into generating employment, on the ground. So is there something like that in the pipeline? How do you respond to that criticism?
Land is a state subject. And certainly the central government at that initial stage, we had taken what the UPA had left undone or done badly and started talking about the land reforms. But we realized, since consensus was not coming through and it was becoming more political, saying I'll obstruct it because now you've taken it up kind of a line, we said all right, let the state governments handle it. State governments are today, I'm happy to say, in a competitive federal mood. They each competing healthily among themselves to see which of the states is going to give investor a better environment.
Right.
And in that they realized land plays a very critical role. And today land, not just obtaining land, but also the use of land, conversion for certain purposes, are critical issues. And state governments are playing an active role in facilitating for industry and for investment.
But the Modi government aimed to reach the top 50 in terms of ease of doing business, and statistics show that we're still ranking at 130 in 189 countries. So, in a certain sense, perhaps 2-year targets that were laid out or that were publicly stated, we're still falling short by miles.
You're still talking about the ranking which happened just once after Modi government has come in. And that once is based on data related to the previous year. The reforms which came in the name of ease of doing business, which in fact went through the level of the states, have not yet been taken on board for the next ranking of ease of doing business, which is expected only sometime this year.
Okay.
So
you're saying that there is going to be a marked improvement.
The change from 140 to 130 or 142 to 130 has happened immediately after we came in.
Right.
But immediately, just so immediately, that many of the steps that we had taken have not even been part of that assessment, of that ranking. So it is now the fresh ranking which will reflect that it is possible for us to reach that position of 50th rank.
Okay,
immediately, at least in the
I'm going to do a quick recap for viewers who are joining us now. We're on a Facebook live chat with Union Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. She's kind of set a new precedent in this government by being the first minister to come on a Facebook live chat, embracing the digital platform in the true spirit of what her government aims to set out to do. We've been taking in questions that people have been sending us over the last couple of days. My colleague Shoini tells me that we have a lot of questions coming in. But I'm just going to talk about, how has it been from spokesperson to becoming, a minister in a Modi government, which, sitting outside, there is a perception that he's a really hard taskmaster and, there is an autocratic style of functioning. Literally, figuratively, if you were to sit outside, you would imagine Modi sitting with a danda and everybody else sort of like just cowing around him. So is he autocratic? How hard is he a taskmaster?
He's a professional governing leader.
Now that's a diplomatic answer which I'm not going to accept.
No, that is the truth, because it is not. This word autocratic makes me laugh. Here's my boss with whom I interact in the cabinet meetings, or even one-on-one. Being a minister with independent charge, I report to him directly. I've never had a feeling of, oh my God, should I go and should I not? What will he tell me? Never. I've just walked into his room. I've told what I want to. He's advised me on what I have to. We've had healthy exchanges, sometimes good laughter, and I come back. And let me be honest, and I can look into any number of people's eyes and say, after every such meeting, I come back energized. I honestly come back energized and feel, all right, in spite of all the challenges I have, I'm at it. That's a leader's quality, and I'm happy to say I'm working with him. Certainly not an autocrat.
So if boss is watching this, full marks, 10 on 10.
Thank you.
No, but seriously, I mean, there is a perception, again, I'm going by, reports that trickle down, etc., that there is really no autonomy that is given to ministries, that, he's a control freak, he wants to control everything on his own, and, I mean, is that at all true? We've seen it in the case of a couple of ministries.
No autonomy to a minister? Not at all. Absolutely not. Tell me the number of decisions I've taken and then gone back to tell him, this is what I've done.
Okay.
And in the cabinet, he's the one who never speaks. If anything, in the meetings, cabinet meetings, he's the one who never speaks. Or if anything, he has one last word to add here and there. Never have we been told, oh no, you'll do this.
Okay, so as a part of the Modi government completing 2 years, we have a whole host of stories on the Quint, and one of them is about Modi's relationship with the media. Now that's a very interesting domain to walk down, and I spoke with a couple of beat reporters, senior political reporters who cover, say, cabinet ministries, and many of them complain that it's hard to access cabinet agenda because the ministers don't talk, there is really no points person. So, he sort of tried to eliminate the media and deal with people directly, whether it's Man Ki Baat or whether it's his Twitter or his app or website, etc. So, is there any sort of, such kind of instructions that trickle down?
Don't mind me saying this. In the last 20 minutes that we've sat here, I've happily heard you tell, oh, this is the first minister who's interacting with the Facebook live chat and feeling happy that the minister is engaging in the social media.
I'm thrilled.
You're thrilled. But when Modi does it, he's eliminating the mainstream media. How can that be true? He is happy to engage in the mainstream, Twitter, Facebook,
but he wants
WhatsApp,
to control
information.
Else.
Not at all.
He doesn't want
the
to.
Flow of information. Yesterday, we had a meeting with 4 senior ministers, party president, myself, dealing with the print media. Today, I'm going to have the same with the electronic media at 7 o'clock. I had a PowerPoint presentation wherein I had 45 slides to show. In fact, my colleague here, Akshay, would tell me,
hi Akshay.
Hi. He is the one who had the unenviable task of reducing a 125 slide document down to 45.
Wow.
Because I'm sure the media would have cursed me if I'd poured all the 125. PowerPoint presentation, 125 slides. What do you think we are here for? Would have been the comment.
The copy desk at the Quint sympathizes with him. We throw these long-winded stories with long-winding sentences to them, and they do this fabulous task.
But it had so many infographics, statistics, data. What you want about this government has been given in nuts, bolts, and all detail. And you tell me that there is not enough information available? Just spend some more time looking at the data that we're sharing with you.
But that's what I'm saying, that it's controlled.
It's not controlled.
It's not controlled.
It's not controlled. Information is given. Information is not given, you tell me you're controlling data.
Okay.
But if I'm giving it, how is it controlled?
Okay. I'm going to come down to, some specific questions that people have thrown at us. Now, there is something about roads. There was a very high octane sort of claim that was made, which is that 30 kilometers a day. In 2 years, we will make 30 kilometers of roads in a day. That figure currently is at 14.3 as opposed to 13.7. Now, there are many specifics where we could...
In this one, I'm glad I'm able to stop you there on this, because only yesterday I had shown through the PowerPoint presentation 2 different sets of road laying activity. One relates to the Prime Minister Gram Sadak Yojana, where we've achieved 30 kilometers a day, and the other one relates to the National Highways one, where it is about 13-14 kilometers. So these 2 are not competing data, they relate to totally different activities.
Okay.
So 30 kilometers is achieved for the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana.
But has the 30 kilometers a day been achieved?
Yes, it is achieved.
Okay.
Whereas that is not the level at which the national highways are being built. That is only at 14.
Yeah.
But still that 14 is an improvement over 3 or 5, which was prevailing during
My
UPA.
numbers say 13.7, but I'm not going to argue with you on
13.7.
statistics.
I'm not sticking to 14.
Okay.
Around
Yeah,
14,
around.
13.5, 13.7, 14, whatever. That two-digit number relates to the high wisdom laying. But that 13.7 was somewhere in the range of 3, 4, 5 and not beyond 5 in the UPA days.
Okay.
So these are not contradictory data.
I'm going to switch. Shoini is telling me that we have a lot of questions coming in. Before we take those questions, I'm going to, talk about something that again has garnered a lot of interest in social media. There's been a lot of talk about it on Facebook, on Twitter. A lot of people, throwing in questions, a lot of critique coming in on the perception of social intolerance that this government has displayed. Now, I don't know if the people watching us know, but Minister sitting here is an alumna of JNU. JNU, of course, has been, in the limelight for, I would believe, not reasons that we'd want JNU to be in the limelight for. It's one of the most respectable universities. What happened in JNU? This whole tag of anti-national has projected, certain sections of this government as being intolerant. How do you respond to that? You're an alumna of the institution. So, what did you make of what was going on, in your erstwhile campus?
I felt sad for the developments this time because I know the place and it has a culture of doing a lot of discussion, debates in an open fashion. But what this time happened in that campus does not make you feel it is the same JNU that you're talking about, because you're celebrating a cause on a day remembering Afzal Guru, who attacked the Indian Parliament, the Parliament which is the temple of this democracy, which gives us the right to freedom of speech. That day on which he was hanged for having attacked the Indian Parliament. It's not just the day, but he was hanged after the due process of law. Every court has been appealed to, the higher court has been appealed again to, and after all that, he was hanged. You want to celebrate the day, or you want to commemorate the day in which this man was hanged? A man who attacked our parliament? And then tell us you're curbing our freedom of expression? Whichever country will tolerate.
But don't you think that spiraled out of control? Don't you think that whatever happened on JNU campus could have perhaps been dealt with better?
By whom?
By the government?
If you ask me, by the JNUSU. The JNUSU should have an introspection session. All the elected members of the JNUSU sit in a room and tell us, is this what the campus is all about? Is this what you want to do?
What was it like in your days?
Later.
What was it like in your days?
I'll tell you something, what it was, and therefore then you'll tell me whether the freedom of expression is more now, intolerance is less now or more now. A student's room was double locked, as we used to call it then.
In your days?
In our
Which
days.
was which year?
83.
83, okay.
The room was
I
double
wasn't
locked.
even born then.
Double locked. And double locked for what? Some kind of a discipline related matter. The students' union agitated. As usual, we just transgress any limit, go sit in the Vice Chancellor's office, in his house, protested. At one stage, he was sort of held almost a hostage in his own office. Police came in, arrested all of us, took us away. 67 people, if I remember correct, inclusive of the JNUSU president, were kept in Tihar jail for it.
Wow.
And that was done during Mrs. Indira Gandhi's time. Today, her grandson chooses to go and support JNUSU on an issue of national security, where the union, whether knowingly or unknowingly, has joined in along with separatists to celebrate Afzal Guru or to remember the day on which he was hanged. And then when the government takes action, this government is called intolerant. Whereas for a double locking of an issue we were taking to Tihar, that government is not intolerant. The same government, the Congress government's grandson, today becomes the vice president, and he is going and sympathizing and also saying this government is intolerant. Or you were intolerant on us when we were talking about students' rights. This is against national interest.
But how is it against national interest? Why is this government so threatened by a bunch of students who have a political view that is different
We are
from...
not threatened, but do you want a celebration or commemoration of somebody who attacks your democracy? Democracy...
But doesn't the same democracy give people, the freedom to commemorate and,
yes, and therefore you will not attack,
whoever.
you will not remember the person who attacks the temple of democracy.
Okay, I'm not going to make this about JNU, but I think what we're going to highlight is that you went to Tihar jail in 83 protesting. You were not.
We were all arrested. We were taken to some police station near Daula Kuan. We were kept overnight. From among us, over 65 students, 67 if I remember correct,
right,
inclusive of the JNUSU president, was taken to Tihar. They were there for 3 weeks, and that year, let me take it further, and that year was declared a 0 year for academic purposes. HRD minister of that time under Mrs. Indira Gandhi, please answer, is this a cost worth for a whole academic year to be washed off? We were all sent out of our hostels. Our rooms were locked. We were asked to vacate.
But that's something that a lot of current JNU students are talking about as well.
Please. Is this sufficient reason for intolerance? Sufficient reason for people to be put in Tihar? Sufficient reason for the JNUSU president himself to be locked up in Tihar?
So that's in 1983.
The whole year to be lost? Intolerance,
she talks like a true JNUite. You do talk like a true JNUite. We've seen so many of them and interacted with them. I'm going to come back to a couple of questions. Menaka Doshi, who is our managing editor at Bloomberg Quint, has asked a question. Some interviews indicate that you agree with Subramanian Swamy on his views on the RBI governor. Do you?
I've never discussed individual personalities.
Okay. Are you friends, Subramanian Swamy and you?
I'm friends with everybody.
Okay.
I've even gone on a delegation with many others.
Right.
Who are part of other parties.
Okay.
So, issues I do talk.
Okay, so talking about issues is another question from Rohit Khanna. He says, when Subramanian Swamy gets a Rajya Sabha seat, we see it as a reward for several bigoted, libellous, noxious comments that he makes in public. Now, you may put out a statement that the BJP doesn't agree with his views, but the PM is seen as rewarding him for whatever his views are. Subramanian Swamy is known to be, loud and boisterous about the way he feels. So what do you make of the fact that the government, distances itself from him every now and then you reward him with the Rajya Sabha seat?
Who gets appointed in Rajya Sabha, who doesn't get appointed in the Rajya Sabha is not an issue for me to debate. However, since you're asking this, he's come in for his contribution as a thinker to the Indian economy. Equally as much as all of us would agree, like many scholars in India, he's Harvard educated, he's been teaching in Harvard, and then has been a former minister.
Right. Okay.
IITN. Is it wrong to appoint a person of that profile?
But he's known for his views that the government is known to disagree with. The government itself.
There are people who don't agree with his view, and therefore you don't like him, and therefore you shouldn't appoint him in Rajya Sabha. Excuse me, aren't there many other people in the Rajya Sabha who, let me take this opportunity to say, even wrote to the US Senate stopping this Prime Minister now, Chief Minister then, from going out of this country? You don't like them or you don't agree with them, but would you protest if they are in the Rajya Sabha? They wrote over and above the Indian institutions to a US authority as though they don't have a belief in their own capacities to say, no, don't invite this man.
Right.
Now, many of us found it objectionable. Can I raise a point to saying, oh my God, this man is sitting in the Rajya Sabha after having had the temerity to write to the US authority to stop this chief minister? I don't say that.
But since we're talking about Rajya
I don't
Sabha,
say that. And therefore I'm asking,
so
it's your like and dislike which will determine who the Prime Minister should decide to have in the Rajya Sabha? Then I'll also have a list of people. I'll at least name 65 people.
I think the question is different. The question is, here's a government that's distanced itself from him, but you
some
say
of
that
his
there
views.
is from
some of his views.
Okay, from some of his views. So you're willing to concede that
much, yes.
Okay, I'm going
but
to.
But at the same time, I will remind. But that doesn't mean that he shouldn't be appointed in Rajya Sabha. then I'll have a list of people who signed that 65 different people from various parties who objected to our current Prime Minister from going to the US and sought the help of US against a constitutionally elected Chief Minister. Can I object to their presence in Rajya Sabha?
Since we're talking about Rajya Sabha and Parliament, what do you make of the chaos that we've been seeing in Parliament the last 2 sessions, and a similar kind of chaos and this loud, boisterous, argumentative narrative that translates into a lot of TV studios as well? You've been a part of many such discussions. So what do you make of this very loud kind of a narrative that's now come to the fore? A lot of aggression, whether it's on social media and people abusing you left, right and center. What do you make of this? Does it bother you?
It bothers me a lot. It denies an opportunity for the people to know the real story behind any topic, any discussion. And I, for one, never, I'm not promoting myself here, but I for one, never believed in it. I'd rather not have our voices raised. I'd rather not have abuses, thrown here and there. I'd rather look for substantial debate in television studios as much as in the Parliament too, because people need good, deliberated information. They don't need to be given only opinions. And debate anywhere should have to be inclusive of every view. You may agree at the end of the day with a view or not, but you should hear it.
Right.
And I feel therefore very sorry when debates are obstructed, both in the studios and in the Parliament.
And what do you make of social media trolls? Do you get trolled on Twitter? Do people say all kinds of things?
I do. But it doesn't matter to me, because ultimately it's a wonderful platform through which information can be shared. And good debates happen there too. Although, of course, it is of an open-ended nature.
Right.
And that's how it should be. Come back to it, continue the debate if you want tomorrow, day after, whenever.
But there is a lot of abuse and hate, and I mean,
there are
a lot of sympathizers, I would like to call them sympathizers of the government, who target you for anything at all that you may have to say against the government.
That is also true. You have an army of people for any set of believers, of any set of ideology, who are there only to be deployed for ambushing the others.
Right. So you think it's a war that happens at another level?
That's right. I think it is important to continue the debate. Don't get distracted by this, because that's where your strength of your conviction also matters. Yes, it's very disheartening. It's demotivating.
But
you have to just keep going.
There's also been, in the last 2 years, a lot of criticism about, people who make statements supporting one particular religion, antagonizing another religion. Many of those people are members of Parliament of, this current dispensation. And there is a general critique of the Prime Minister that, he doesn't come out and condemn these voices. Which which, as many would say, is a silent endorsement.
No, but I'll want to speak with a certain sense of responsibility here. If the expectations on the Prime Minister is that he should immediately come out and say, no, I don't approve this, every day. I've spent my entire student days, and even today, and I'm not saying the stock line would be given to me saying, oh no, that doesn't justify this one. But I will tell you, today, the army of people who want Prime Minister to come out and condemn some of his supporters taking a position.
But some of his own members of Parliament.
No, wait a minute. I've seen, I'm telling you, members of Parliament wrote to the US authorities saying, don't allow this man to come to the US. No. Are they not irresponsible? Don't they believe? If they really don't want him.
But does irresponsibility means irresponsibility to continue?
No, that is why I'm telling you.
But communally sensitive issues, shouldn't the Prime Minister come out and take a stand on communally sensitive issues?
I've not finished my answer. Listen to me in full.
Okay.
So, that's Member of Parliament. This is not. No. What you find as intolerance, I also find as intolerance. And what you think you do not want to talk about, I want to talk about too. I'm purposely coming back with this example of where was the sense of responsibility to these members of Parliament who thought it for themselves a very proper idea to seek the help of an institution elsewhere to stop a constitutional leader. What business is that for you? Which court has pronounced against him? But you said, no, stop him. Is that right? You may say, no, that doesn't affect the community. All right, it doesn't affect the community, but it affects my national pride. One thing. If you're telling me that today those trolls who are speaking in favor of the Prime Minister, but who are talking about some religion, the same thing holds good for others. Who for the last 60 years, you have not seen because you were not, as you said, born when I was in a student, but also in the instruments, in the social media and so on, which didn't exist then.
Yeah.
Who have constantly hit at certain ideologies, certain group beliefs. What did we do then? Did we start writing? Did Jansangis, did BJPites, did the RSS call these people names? Or did they seek the American help saying against these Russian agents or the USSR agents? Did we do that? Did we say these are commies who are working against India and ask the Americans to stop them?
Right.
No, we fought the ideological war. Did they not support people who have been supportive of the Naxals underground? And what are the Naxals doing? They are waging a war against the state. Open pamphlets are there.
But
are they doing this nation any favor? They were all occupying institutions. Indian Council for Historical Research, Indian Council for Social Sciences Research. You take any such institutions where actual thinking happens on social sciences. They were all dominated by our card-holding leftists who were professing support to the Marxists, Leninists.
This is an ideological argument that could go on. That could go on for a while.
Today the trolls, who you call as trolls,
we call
are
them
taking.
punks.
You may call them whatever it is. Who are taking a war in the social media are talking about an ideological warfare, and that is what is happening. 60 years, this country.
But there is a fair share of hatred that's being bred online and on the ground.
And
like I said,
right.
it's not
right.
an ideological argument I wish to get into. I'm going to come to Shoini, my colleague who is with me. Shoini tells me on message that we have a lot of questions coming in. Shoini, shoot us some questions and we'll wrap up.
Question coming on from this under 25 club who asks, how are young change makers expected to work with the government? What does this government have for the young change makers or the young entrepreneurs who want to set up their own business, their own?
Essentially, I think, how do they become a part of, government?
Two ways. One, of course, if you're looking at startups, because you are doing a lot of innovations, you want to contribute, you can always, as a startup, register yourself, which is online, and we are here to facilitate, we are here to fund you, and so on. Tax breaks are available. There are ways in which you can contribute both commercially, and also in the decision making.
Right. We also had
time for another question.
Yeah.
We'll take one from Akash Joshi who asks, prices have fallen in line with the global fuel prices. Price controls have been reintroduced in medical supplies. Is yours an economically liberal government, or is it in line with the Swadeshi Jagran Manch's statist Swadeshi model?
Well, it is a liberal one, and on views which may coincide with the Swadeshi, it will coincide. But that doesn't mean that Swadeshi is anti-national, and this cannot be done just because Swadeshi is saying it. So let's not presume about some groups whether the view is of a left-winger or a Swadeshi or a liberal, call it what you want. This government's every decision can be subjected to any test, and it will be in the national interest. Let it
and
be from
in
any
the public
age.
eye and scrutinized and questioned over and over. Okay,
Yes.
Shoini and Akshay are both looking at me and they are like showing me their watches. So
There's
I'm
one
going to.
question that we
Okay.
would like you to take, ma'am. This is coming from Priya. As the Modi government finishes 2 years in office, how would you rate this government out of 10?
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
That's a good
Well, congratulations on that. I just want to ask you, ma'am, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Do you still want to be in government, hold office? Do you get enough time to yourself? What's the life of a minister like? Let's end on a lighter note.
Life of a minister is great because I have opportunity to interact with a lot of young people, and when I go back, I have a daughter with whom I spend a lot of time. I balance my home and home in the sense of home in Delhi. I'm not able to give as much time for the home in Hyderabad, but it's great fun because it's opportunity to work with some dynamic leader who's clear in his vision and who himself works.
But do you get time to put your feet up and oil your hair and chill out on a
Absolutely.
Sunday, or is the phone ringing
Yes.
off the hook?
No. I do have time for myself.
You do
Otherwise,
have
I'll
time.
not be energetic enough to come back to speaking to you all.
Okay, and just last question. We know that yours is a very popular leader. He's been talked about, rated, been on magazine covers, and etc. etc. But as a minister in his government, if you were to give Prime Minister Narendra Modi one piece of advice before we wrap up, what would it be? What would you say to him?
Just don't bother about the critics who are always after you. Do the good work you're doing.
Okay, that's a 10 on 10 from the boss for sure. You've been so kind to be with us, Nirmala Sitharaman. Thank you so much for joining us. She's been the first Mantri to come on a Facebook Live. We're going to try and convince and bring down many more ministers to answer your questions. Stay tuned to the Quint for all the live updates. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again.
You're welcome, and thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure having you with us. Thank you.
Thanks.